The Monster Hunter franchise is approaching 20 years old, but unlike many of Capcom's other properties, it has only really achieved mainstream success in Western markets over the past 5 years. While the series dates back to the PlayStation 2 in Japan, the series has suffered from delayed or cancelled releases in the US and Europe, or has been built targeting portable hardware such as the PlayStation Portable and Nintendo 3DS. The more recent success of 2018's Monster Hunter World on PC, PlayStation and Xbox, followed by Monster Hunter Rise on the Nintendo Switch in 2021, has elevated the franchise's niche popularity to something more mainstream. Hunting ferocious monsters using a variety of increasingly elaborate and ridiculous weapons has always been the big draw of the series, but unlike so many other gaming franchises, the villains of each game, the monsters themselves, are the real stars. Players look forward not just to fighting the flagship monster of a new release, such as Nergigante and Magnamalo, but standing their ground against old favourites, be it Narkakuga, Rathalos, or Diablos. Each monster has its own strengths, weaknesses, and personality, and to take them down will require the right equipment and preparation that can only come from experience of standing your ground against creatures 10 times your size. I'm Tommy Thompson, and in this episode of Design Dive, we're going to take a look at what makes Monster Hunter so appealing and the aspects of enemy and level design that you can take into your own projects, or just appreciate as you're out on the hunt. As something of a recent convert myself, I want to explore what makes each monster so interesting and the world set out for you to explore, plus how the game maintains novelty with each new expedition as you face off against new threats and refine your hunting skills. Monster Hunter can often feel obfuscated and complicated for newcomers, and heck, I still don't know my way around it in many respects, particularly at the higher ranks, but the core game loop is really quite straightforward. Prepare, hunt, and develop. Players start by deciding on the monster they wish to hunt, preparing their armour, weaponry and items based on the knowledge they have of their quarry, grab a meal to boost their stats, organise a hunting party to have other hunters support them, and then head out on the expedition. Once on the ground, it's a process of finding the target, picking up on its movement patterns, acquiring useful materials from the local environment, and potentially fighting off some of the smaller endemic life along the way. This leads to the showdown with the monster itself. Monster fights are far from a quick and simple ordeal. Players cannot simply hack and slash at a monster, but rather you need to learn when to move, get your hits in and back off to make for another attack, all the while watching out for the monster as it tries to take a chunk out of you. Monsters do not have simple predefined strategies, and while seasoned hunters will learn their attacks, each new showdown is a unique challenge. However, with a bit of luck, the monster will go down, either you slay it or successfully trap it. With the hunt complete, it's time to gather up your rewards. Players earn materials from the slaying or capturing of monsters, as well as any other useful items you picked up while out in the wilds. You can then use this to craft new weapons and armour, often with unique traits that are useful in specific circumstances. Meanwhile, all of the experience you have gained will help prepare you for later missions. As you complete hunts successfully, your hunter rank will increase, enabling you to take on more challenging missions against bigger monsters and their more aggressive variants. While the core loop is consistent, the challenge the game presents never lets up. You might hunt more than one monster in a given trip. Meanwhile, these creatures become increasingly more powerful and aggressive as you attempt higher rank expeditions. It's a game that requires the player to think long and hard about the build of their character, the weapons and armour you've equipped, the items you have crafted, and the buffs of your meal choices before every new adventure. One wrong decision can make the next hunt harder than is necessary, or potentially doom you to failure before you even left the camp. And all of these decisions are built around one key element: understanding the traits and behaviours of the monsters themselves. As mentioned earlier, your targets in Monster Hunter are the true stars of the show. It's not often that a franchise is built such that the villains, the enemy AI of the game, are the real centrepiece of the... No, come on, can we just go one episode without bringing that up? It's going to start looking repetitive. Please, just... Thank you. But what makes them so interesting is that a lot of effort is made to make them feel distinct from one another. Each has their own attack types, movement patterns, not to mention they pack a punch, with many enemies capable of bringing you down with great... No, jeez, okay, who's editing this episode? Angus, f***'s sake, get a grip. But it's more than just the combat. Their traits differentiate heavily from one species to another, plus their overall behaviour is built to maintain a chaotic variety. No two encounters with a monster are the same. be it while out in the wild or in combat. Hence the player needs to invest time and energy into understanding what makes each monster tick. This includes their overall migration patterns, how do they move around the environment even before you attack them, understanding their aggression, will they ignore you or sniff you out and start attacking immediately. Once in the fight, how do they move around the space? Are they prone to running towards the player? Do they use verticality either by climbing the local environment or by flying to get an edge? What attacks do they exhibit? Do they make pointed direct attacks, larger sweeping behaviours? Do they lunge directly towards you to close the gap or use projectiles to hit you from afar? And most critically, what are their tells? Their animations that indicate a specific attack is coming. This is such a huge part of Monster Hunter's core combat, as their decision making is rarely uniform, and as such it can be difficult to anticipate what they're going to do next. Ultimately, Monster Hunter is all about learning the behavioural ticks of each species, knowing when to move, dodge, parry, and of course when to strike. It's not enough to level up your armour and weapons, all it takes is one wrong move to find yourself pinned down and ready to become lunch meat. It's quite exciting to see a franchise so heavily predicated on developing an intimate understanding of each boss character's behavioural traits, with the idea that you're expected to repeatedly face off against them, given you frequently need multiple successful hunts in order to craft their weapon and armour sets, and often you then have to do it again at high rank as well. And of course there's the issue of going through this process for each monster. Each entry of the series carries a significant number of monsters to hunt, and strikes a balance of bringing back characters from previous entries alongside new enemies to help keep it fresh. For example, the recent Monster Hunter Rise on the Switch has 32 unique large monsters, while Monster Hunter World has 36, with the Iceborne expansion bringing this up to a total of 71. So that's a lot of research to conduct and remember for each specific monster. Now, while seasoned players might know much of this information already, given they might have fought that monster in a previous entry of the series, for novice players this is all information you need to feel out yourself. Or, read on a wiki. Each entry of Monster Hunter has tweaked or changed how this aspect of the game loop has worked, and often within the confines of the hardware. Research is a huge part of mastering Monster Hunter, to a point the game even offers players a hunter guide that updates with all the knowledge you've learned, and a lot of the stuff you probably missed. There's a lot of shared DNA with the likes of the Dark Souls series. Even though Monster Hunter precedes From Software's titles by a few years, in each case there are layers of complexity that players must take the time to learn in order to maximise their performance. It requires patience and exploration, repeated attempts at visiting specific environments and fighting bosses that truly shapes your understanding of each. In fact, the AI combat design is very similar between the two franchises. Enemies have a variety of different attacks, can often take a significant amount of punishment, and their attacks are often difficult to predict and will even change tactics during the fight. But the experience isn't quite the same. The Souls series expects each boss to be a challenge you only fight once on that playthrough, lest you become a phantom and support others, or in the case of Dark Souls 2 by using the bonfire aesthetic. The expectation is that you fail, with repetition achieved through bonfires. Monster Hunter, on the other hand, expects that you fight, you win, and you take on the challenge all over again. In each case, you run risk of losing all resources should you fail that hunt, but in order to craft weapons and armour of a given monster, you will need to return to that fight several times over. In a previous design dive episode, I highlighted that Dark Souls design is predicated on delayed reward, and forcing players to learn and adapt their playstyles to each area, punishing and even taunting them if they fail to comply by leaving their lost souls out in the open. Monster Hunter shares many of these ideas. There is an implicit reward attained from learning the behaviours of enemies and what you expect them to accomplish, but unlike Dark Souls, it dangles much of the explicit reward very far away from the player, with the majority of valuable resources only attained upon defeating your prey. This is really quite astounding, when you realise the Souls series is already notorious for holding reward at arm's length. In the event that you fail a hunt, you're back at the beginning with no explicit reward to show for it. But all that said, the risk is arguably not as substantial as Dark Souls, given you typically don't have many resources on hand until the end of the fight, meaning the loss may not feel quite as visceral. But critically, both series reward continued engagement. With Monster Hunter you will learn the peculiarities of each monster, but also how each entry in the series does them justice. So before anyone asks where my promised design dive episode on Bloodborne is, let's take a look at how this manifests in the two most recent entries of the Monster Hunter series. 2018's Monster Hunter World is notable in that it's the first entry of the series deliberately targeting Western markets. As detailed in the 2018 GDC post-mortem with game director Yuya Tokuda, the mandate from senior producer Ryozo Tsujimoto was to craft a next-generation Monster Hunter title targeting home consoles, but is designed such that both the core Japanese audience would be satisfied while appealing to a broader international player base. This led to the reinforcement and streamlining of what Capcom sees are the three core pillars of the franchise: action, multiplayer, and the core loop of preparing, hunting, and developing. This led to an iterative process of focus testing which mechanics should be iterated upon or removed, with regional playtesting only occurring in North America and the United Kingdom, given Capcom was already confident of the expectations of Japanese players. As such, they focused more heavily on these Western territories to figure out how best to balance the experience. This, combined with the change to larger open-world biomes rather than fixed screens that players load between, arguably removed some of the more mechanical nuances, such as the need to use paintballs for tracking monsters when they left a given map area. But it doesn't stop the game from achieving its core aim: awesome boss battles against monsters. Having previously played Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate and finding it frustrating, Monster Hunter World is the entry that finally got me on board, because it keeps the game focused on the monsters and their world, and the best thing it does is encourages players to develop a strong understanding of these two elements. The most exciting changes are the environments themselves. Each biome or territory in the new world is rich, densely populated with flora and fauna, and incredibly complex and non-linear. Players can find a variety of pathways between main thoroughfares, while bumping into a variety of endemic life that moves around the map. The environmental design is what helps make the core game loop shine, as well as enrich the player's understanding and expectations of monsters, given you have to actually hunt them. The core loop is enriched given each hunt has three key stages: exploration, observation, and combat. First, you need to figure out where in this area should we expect to find that monster. Monsters are often found in specific regions of each biome. They might travel around and may be in areas you typically wouldn't expect, but they are creatures of habit. This helps reinforce the idea that these monsters are living creatures within their designated biomes. They wander for food, attack other endemic life, or go to their nesting grounds for a nap. But you need to figure out where those locations are, placing a real emphasis on exploration and following your scout flies as they identify where the monster has been, pointing out old or fresh tracks, mucus, feathers, and any other secretions the creature may have left behind. Now, the fun thing about this is a lot of it is artificial. Sure, once the monster has been in the map environment for a while, the game will spawn those items of interest as it moves around, but in order to help the player get started on their hunt, the game has to generate a history of the monster's movements before the environment was loaded in. This works on two levels. First, you're helping better guide the player towards their objective, while reinforcing the research mechanic, otherwise it would make finding your initial set of tracks much harder, but also it reinforces the immersion by suggesting to players that these are living creatures and they exist outside of the core combat of the game. I mean, it might also make you feel bad about taking them down, but then this isn't Monster Hugger, is it? Repeated collection of research materials such as footprints and drool results in an increase of your research score for that monster, but it also gives you an idea of its movement patterns. The more you complete hunts against a specific monster and increase the research score, it will result in the scout flies heading directly towards it, rather than having to source the tracks. While it does remove the fun of tracking the monster live in the environment, it's also a reflection of your growing knowledge. You've played enough now to realise where that monster is going to go and where best to try and find it. Once you do find it, the next step is observation. Is it going to head into an area that provides some strategic advantage, or an area that could result in it clashing with another monster? I mean, sure, you could just rush in and start smashing its ankles, but instead you could prep an ambush, use environmental traps, try and jump on its back, or maybe even lure another monster into its path such that you can take advantage of the commotion. Alternatively, you might also want to use this as a mechanism to figure out where those monsters cannot go. Many of the monsters are ruthless and will chase you down even in tighter spaces, so it's important to know where you can head to for a safe retreat. This investment in understanding the environment is often rewarded during battle, given if the battle isn't going your way, you know a good location to hide, or if the monster flees, you'll know where it may try to escape. It's reinforcing your understanding of the monster's behaviour by contextualising it within the biome. And it's important to acknowledge that all of this is happening in and around the time pressure. Missions have fixed time limits, plus if you're on expeditions, it's not uncommon for a monster to eventually leave the biome entirely. So once the fight starts, you need to keep up the pace and deliver the killing blow. Monster Hunter Rise is notable in that it's the first portable entry of the series after the release of Monster Hunter World, and as such it retains many quality of life features of its predecessor, as well as some of the design elements that made that game stand out from the rest of the series. The game once again is comprised of multiple open environments. There are no loading screens between specific areas of the map like in previous entries, plus resources such as the whetstone are again a permanent infinite resource for you to use. That said, it's also a portable game, so it streamlines the experience in a manner that's more amenable to players sitting with a handheld, and of course the performance budget of the device itself. This results in some design decisions that change the overall focus of the player's interaction with the environment and places a stronger emphasis on combat. The most obvious change is that exploration of the environment occurs outside of hunting the monster, given that monsters are fully visible on your map provided those areas have been visited at least once. While a new monster may still be an unknown until it is spotted for the first time, it still appears on the minimap and completely removes the need for the player to hunt it when compared to Monster Hunter World. One awkward transition that occurs is that many of the perks and buffs you previously attained from food in Monster Hunter World are now achieved by exploration in Rise. Hence players are often made to explore the environment to find the best combination of bugs that will prepare you for the fight. During this process it can help you find shortcuts, good areas for getting into combat, and other secrets, alongside special fast travel points that tie into the wire bug mechanic, which also has a big impact on combat. It can feel like a lot of these changes detract from the more immersive feel of Monster Hunter World, and while I'd argue that to be true, it's also playing more to the realities of being on a portable platform, moving players towards the action faster, but still giving you a mechanism to maximise your traits through focused movement through the world. This is reinforced by your Palamute, your dog that you can jump and ride around the map, but also the use of the wire bug, which replaces the grappling hook from Monster Hunter World, allowing you to grapple and throw yourself around at any time on the map. The wire bug is equally important in combat, given it can be used to maintain your pace and evade attacks, but also as the justification for a variety of parries and skills you can equip for each weapon. But it's also the narrative device for arguably the biggest change to the combat, where players can mount a downed monster and then ram it into the local terrain, or, more critically, use it to attack other monsters. Given the combat-first focus of Monster Hunter Rise, you get into fights more quickly, and the odds of monsters fighting with one another are much higher. Monsters are typically downed when charged by another monster the player is riding, plus when hunting a specific target monster, the other monsters in the region can be downed more easily. Hence, a common tactic is to hunt the other monsters in the area, then ride them in to attack your target, down it, and then ride the target and do extra damage to everyone involved. This results in what often feels like shorter, more chaotic hunts that still retain the core of what makes Monster Hunter work, while also streamlining it for a portable session. The one downside to Rise is the Rampage missions, a tower defense horde mode in which players must fight off waves of monsters as they attempt to break into your village. However, much of the enemy AI behaviour for each monster is streamlined. They simply move forward and attack your defences. It's a novel idea for the franchise, but it removes any and all individuality or character from the attacking monsters, which is essentially what Monster Hunter is all about. Monster Hunter is a franchise that values observation and patience as much as it does the actual combat. From the outside, this series can appear impenetrable or unnecessarily obtuse for a bunch of games that are ultimately about using big sticks to hit even bigger monsters. But it rewards its most ardent fans for their dedication towards mastering each enemy, maintaining the thrill of the hunt for many hours to come. Thanks for watching this episode of Design Dive. It's been a while since we've done a good old-fashioned exploration of video game design for a popular franchise. If you're a fan of Monster Hunter, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Plus, if you want more Design Dive episodes like this one, let me know what games you'd be excited to see. Design Dive, like all my other AI and games videos, is supported by the good folks over on Patreon. To find out how to join our community, check out the links on screen and in the description. Take care of yourself, folks, and I'll be back.